Sensation and perception. 1. Sensation. The process of detecting stimuli from the environment through our sense organs, for example, eyes, ears, skin. 2. Perception. The interpretation and organization of sensory information to create our understanding of the world. It explains how different individuals can experience the same object differently. Basic sensory processes. 1. Sensory adaptation. The phenomenon where our sensitivity to a constant stimulus decreases over time, allowing us to notice changes in our environment more easily. 2. Transduction. The process of converting physical energy, for example, light, sound, into neural signals that the brain can understand. Principles of perception. 1. Absolute threshold. The minimum level of stimulus intensity that can be detected by an individual. 2. Signal detection theory suggests that an individual's sensitivity to a stimulus can vary depending on factors such as the context and potential consequences of missing the stimulus. 3. Difference threshold. Just noticeable difference. The smallest amount of change between two stimuli that can be detected 50% of the time. 4. Perceptual set. The tendency to perceive stimuli in a certain way based on expectations, experiences, or context. Vision. 1. Parts of the eye. Cornea, the protective outer layer of the eye. Pupil, the opening that allows light to enter the eye. Iris, the colored part of the eye that controls the size of the pupil. Lens, focuses light onto the retina. Retina, the light-sensitive layer at the back of the eye that contains photoreceptors, rods for low light and cones for color. Fovea, the area in the retina with the highest concentration of cones for sharp vision. 2. Light processing. Light enters through the cornea, passes through the pupil regulated by the iris, is focused by the lens, and is converted into neural signals by the retina. 3. Visual acuity. The clarity of vision, primarily dependent on the functioning of cones in the retina. 4. Neurons in the visual cortex. Simple cells respond to specific angles of light. Complex cells, sensitive to movement and can respond to images in various locations. Hypercomplex cells integrate visual information into complete shapes. Perceiving visual stimuli. 1. Perceiving color. Trichromatic color theory states that color perception comes from mixing three primary colors: red, green, blue. Opponent processing theory suggests that color perception is based on opposing color pairs: blue, yellow, red, or green. 2. Color blindness. A deficiency in perceiving certain colors, usually due to inherited issues with photoreceptors. 3. Perceiving motion. The perception of how fast an object moves depends on its background and size. 4. Perceiving depth. Binocular depth cues use input from both eyes to perceive depth, for example, binocular disparity. Monocular depth cues use cues from one eye, such as linear perspective and texture gradient, to perceive depth. 5. Perceiving size and shape. Perceptual constancy. The brain's ability to perceive objects as stable in size and shape despite changes in distance or angle. 6. Perceiving patterns and Hol's Gestalt principles. Similarity. Grouping similar objects together. Continuity. Viewing lines or patterns as continuous. Proximity. Grouping objects that are close to each other. Law of closure. Perceiving incomplete shapes as whole. The physics of sound and hearing. 1. Amplitude. The height of a sound wave, related to perceived loudness. Higher amplitude equals louder sound. 2. Frequency. The rate of sound wave vibrations, related to perceived pitch. Higher frequency equals higher pitch. 3. Purity. The complexity of a sound wave. Hearing process. Sound waves are converted to neural signals in the cochlea, transmitted to the brain, and processed in the auditory cortex. Touch. 1. Mechanoreceptors. Receptor cells in the skin sensitive to different tactile qualities, for example, pressure, vibration. Pain. 1. Pain definition. A complex emotional and sensory experience related to actual or potential tissue damage. 2. Phantom limb pain. Pain felt in a missing limb, indicating that pain perception involves brain processing beyond just physical damage. 3. Nociceptive pain. Pain arising from skin or tissue damage, detected by nociceptors. 4. Gate control theory suggests that the spinal cord regulates pain perception through a gate that can block or allow pain signals. 5. Endorphins. Natural painkillers released by the body in response to injury. Sense of smell. Olfaction. 1. Olfactory sensory neurons, located in the nasal cavity, responsible for converting odor molecules into neural impulses. 2. Olfactory bulb processes smell information and sends it to the brain for interpretation. Sense of taste. Gustation. 1. Papillae structures on the tongue containing taste buds. 2. Taste buds contain taste receptor cells that respond to different taste qualities: bitter, sweet, salty, sour, savory. 3. Gustatory cortex, the brain region where taste sensations are processed. Stages of prenatal development. 1. Germinal stage. Duration begins at conception and lasts for 2 weeks. The fertilized egg, known as a zygote, rapidly divides after conception. 2. Embryonic stage. Duration lasts until about 8 weeks after conception. Description: major organs begin to form, including the nervous system, heart, and limbs. The developing organism is referred to as an embryo. 3. Fetal stage. Duration begins at 8 weeks after conception. Description: formation of bone cells occurs, and all major organs continue to grow and mature. The heartbeat can be detected between 8 and 12 weeks. The organism is now called a fetus. Genetic influences on sex differentiation. Sex determination. Girls have 2 X chromosomes XX, while boys have 1 X and 1 Y chromosome XY. Physical traits distinguishing sex develop around 7 weeks after conception, influenced by the presence or absence of the Y chromosome. Hormonal influence. There is a critical sensitivity period for hormonal effects on sexual differentiation during fetal development. Epigenetic processes also play a role in gene expression related to sex differentiation. Brain and sensory development before birth. Neural migration. This process involves the movement of neurons to their permanent destinations in the fetal brain, occurring between 3–5 months of the fetal stage. Nature and nurture influences on fetal development. Prenatal programming. Events in the womb can impact physical and psychological health outcomes. Coe and Lubbock, 2008. Maternal nutrition, essential for fetal development, influencing gene expression through epigenetic mechanisms. Teratogens, external substances that adversely affect fetal and infant development, such as viruses, alcohol, nicotine, prescription drugs, and radiation. Fetal alcohol spectrum disorders. Fast, severe consequences of prenatal alcohol exposure, including brain and central nervous system damage, intellectual disabilities, and physical abnormalities. Prenatal personality development. Temperament refers to the biologically based tendencies to behave in certain ways from early life, encompassing unique behavioral traits. Personality development. Personality arises from temperament and is characterized by a consistent, unique way in which an individual behaves, thinks, feels, and is motivated across different situations. Temperament types. Easy child, predictable in daily routines, generally happy and adaptable to new situations. Difficult child, unpredictable in routines, often unhappy, and slow to adapt to new situations. Slow to warm up child, mildly intense reactions to new experiences, showing irregular daily patterns but may adapt over time with repeated exposure. Physical development in infancy and childhood. Early motor development involves changes in physical movement and body control. Reflexes, involuntary responses present at birth, for example, grasping and rooting. Fine motor skills, coordination of smaller muscles and visual input, evident in activities like drawing. Early sensory development. Hearing, fully developed at birth. Vision, visual acuity improves during infancy. Early brain development. Pruning, a natural process that enhances brain efficiency and is crucial for normal development, influenced by environmental input. Brain growth continues throughout life, with changes slowing after age 6, increasing during early adolescence, and stabilizing later. Early cognitive development. Cognitive advances, growth in thinking, attention, reasoning, memory, learning, and problem-solving skills. Jean Piaget stages of cognitive development. 1. Sensorimotor stage, birth to 2 years. Infants learn through senses and actions. They lack object permanence. 2. Pre-operational stage, 2 to 7 years. Involves symbolic thinking. Children exhibit animistic thinking, egocentrism, and lack of conservation. 3. Concrete operational stage, 7 to 11 years. Children can perform mental operations on concrete objects but struggle with abstract concepts. 4. Formal operational stage, 12 years and older. Adolescents develop formal logic and scientific reasoning. Theory of the mind, understanding that others have thoughts and feelings different from one's own, which develops with age. Development of moral reasoning, moral development. As cognitive and social skills grow, children develop a sense of right and wrong. Lawrence Kohlberg's stages of moral development. 1. Pre-conventional. Moral reasoning based on avoiding punishment or gaining rewards. 2. Conventional. Emphasizes social order, caring, and relationships, judgments based on societal norms. 3. Post-conventional. Recognition of universal moral principles that may override local laws, willingness to face consequences for moral beliefs. Early socio-emotional development, attachment. A strong emotional bond forming early in life that keeps infants close to caregivers. Attachment theory. John Bowlby proposes that a responsive and accessible caregiver provides a secure base for the child, leading to the internalization of bonds that shape future relationships. Attachment styles in infancy. 1. Secure attachment. Characterized by infants who explore new situations when the caregiver leaves and seek contact upon their return after separation. This indicates a healthy emotional bond and trust in the caregiver. Ainsworth et al., 1978. 2. Insecure attachment. Infants who struggle with effective play and exploration, which can manifest in 3 types. Insecure avoidant. These infants show little to no distress during separation and tend to ignore or avoid the caregiver upon return, although physiological signs indicate they may be stressed. Insecure resistant. These infants have difficulty being comforted by the caregiver upon reunion and struggle to return to play, showing clinginess and resistance. Insecure disorganized disoriented. These infants exhibit conflicted behaviors, such as approaching the caregiver while averting their heads, indicating confusion and lack of a coherent attachment strategy. Physical development in adolescence. Adolescence, a transitional period from childhood to early adulthood, typically starting around ages 11 or 12 and lasting until about age 18. It is marked by significant changes and can be both exciting and challenging. Puberty, the stage during which sexual maturation begins, marking the onset of adolescence. Hormonal changes. Major hormonal shifts prepare the body for reproduction and trigger changes in body size and proportions. Onset age. On average, girls enter puberty around age 11, while boys typically start around age 13. Physical changes during adolescence. 1. Male development. Testosterone release. The testes produce testosterone, leading to physical changes associated with male maturation, including growth of facial and pubic hair, deepening of the voice, widening of the shoulders, growth of the penis. Spermarch, the first ejaculation, which often occurs unexpectedly as a nocturnal emission wet dream. It signifies the male's readiness to reproduce. 2. Female development. Estradiol release. Ovaries release estradiol, transforming girls into women through changes such as development of breasts, widening of hips, increase in body fat. Breast development may start around age 10. Menarche, the onset of menstruation, marking the beginning of fertility, typically occurs by age 12. Menstruation is influenced by cultural and environmental factors. Cognitive and brain development in adolescence. Cognitive development. Adolescence is characterized by the development of abstract reasoning and logical thinking, closely linked to significant brain development. Brain development. Myelination. Increased myelin around axons and the formation of more neural connections enhance brain efficiency. Myelination rates and locations differ between genders, with girls showing increased white matter organization in the right hemisphere and boys in the left. Neural synchrony. Improved coordination of brain activities through synchronized brain waves increases throughout adolescence and possibly into early adulthood. Synaptic pruning. The final stages of synaptic pruning occur, where rarely used synapses are eliminated to enhance brain efficiency. Social development in adolescence. Shift in relationships. As adolescents grow, family becomes less central in their lives, and peer relationships take precedence. Peer influence. During the teenage years, peers often replace parents as primary sources of identification and social support. Bukowski and Cipolla, 2001, Pugh and Hart, 1999. Sexual orientation and gender identity in adolescence. 1. Sexual orientation refers to the pattern of emotional, romantic, or sexual attraction one feels toward individuals of the same sex. Homosexual, the opposite sex. Heterosexual, or both sexes. Bisexual. 2. Gender identity The personal sense of one's own gender, which may or may not align with the sex assigned at birth. It reflects who an individual identifies as and how they perceive themselves in terms of gender. 3. Transgender identity occurs when an individual identifies with a gender different from the one assigned at birth. 4. Identity exploration. Adolescents often explore their identities through various means, including relationships and experimentation with substances such as drugs and alcohol. Personality development in adolescence. Erikson's stages of development. Erik Erikson proposed that adolescence is characterized by the conflict of identity versus identity confusion. This stage involves identity exploration. Adolescents test and experiment with different identities, leading to a search for self. Primary areas of identity formation. Sexual identity, ideological identity including beliefs about religion and politics, and occupational identity, career decisions. Emerging adulthood. 1. Identity exploration. Young adults continue to explore their identities, asking questions like, who am I really? 2. Instability. This phase often involves uncertainty in job, relationships, and education. 3. Self-focused. Young adults may live independently, focusing on personal goals and self-discovery more than in previous stages. 4. Feeling in between. Individuals often feel between adolescence and adulthood, navigating responsibilities and independence. 5. Age of possibilities. Many view this stage as a time when various future opportunities exist, particularly regarding career and relationships. Young adulthood, financial and living arrangement. Settling down in terms of finances and living conditions. Many people marry or form long-term partnerships. Engagement with the outside world. Increased involvement in social and community activities, often marked by marriage and parenthood. Erikson's conflict. The primary conflict in young adulthood is between intimacy and isolation. Successful navigation of this conflict depends on having developed a secure sense of identity during adolescence. Middle adulthood. 1. Age range. Typically defined as ages 40 to 60 or 65. 2. Sensory and brain development. Individuals may experience sensory losses, for example, vision, hearing, but the brain retains plasticity and capacity for growth throughout adulthood. 3. Personality development. Confronting unfulfilled parts of personality, individuals may reflect on and develop aspects of their personality that have been neglected. Individuation. A process described by Carl Jung where personality becomes whole and balanced. Generativity versus stagnation. Erikson's conflict for this stage, where individuals strive to create and nurture things that will outlast them, such as contributions to society or parenting. Personality development in old age. Final stage of Erikson's theory. The last stage of Erik Erikson's theory of personality development occurs in old age, typically starting around age 60 or 65. Conflict of integrity vs. despair. Integrity represents a sense of wholeness and fulfillment, where individuals feel that their life decisions and experiences have come together meaningfully. It involves reflecting on life with a sense of satisfaction and acceptance. Despair occurs when individuals look back on their lives and feel regret, disappointment, or a sense of wasted opportunities. This can lead to feelings of hopelessness and bitterness. Death and dying. Death. Traditionally, death was defined by the cessation of vital signs, heart rate, and breathing. However, advancements in medical technology have complicated this definition by allowing life support to maintain vital functions even when brain function has ceased. Brain death. A medical condition where there is no measurable electrical activity in the brain, indicating irreversible loss of brain function. Life support may still keep vital signs operational despite brain death. Stages of grief. Kubler-Ross model. Psychological perspective on death. Death is viewed as a complex event marking the end of life, which individuals may navigate through a series of emotional stages. Kubler-Ross stages. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross outlined 5 stages that people may experience upon learning they are terminally ill or facing death. 1. Denial. An initial stage where individuals refuse to accept the reality of their situation, often acting as a defense mechanism to cope with overwhelming emotions. 2. Anger. Feelings of frustration and helplessness may lead to anger directed at oneself, others, or even the situation. 3. Bargaining. Individuals may attempt to negotiate for more time or a reprieve from death, often making deals with a higher power or themselves in hopes of reversing the situation. 4. Depression. A period of deep sadness and reflection on the impending loss, where individuals may mourn the life they are leaving behind. 5. Acceptance. The final stage, where individuals come to terms with their mortality, finding a sense of peace and closure.